Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. These powerful words from the legendary psychiatrist Carl Jung speak directly to the truth many of us spend a lifetime avoiding. We all have a part of ourselves. We try to hide emotions we suppress, memories we avoid, fears we bury. Jung called this the shadow, not because it is evil or wrong, but because it lives in the darkness of our awareness. And yet, it is in this very darkness that our healing, growth, and transformation await. Today, I invite you on a journey, a courageous journey inward. A journey of shadow work, the process of confronting the parts of ourselves we often fear the most, only to discover they hold the very keys to our personal power. Because the truth is this, you cannot become whole by pretending to be perfect. You become whole by embracing your brokenness, by looking in the mirror and no longer turning away. So let's begin this deep and empowering journey, not to reject who we are, but to reclaim what we've lost in the shadows. Carl Jung believed that each of us carries a shadow, the hidden, repressed, and denied parts of our personality that we often reject or pretend don't exist. These are not necessarily evil parts of us. They are simply the aspects we've learned to disown due to fear, shame, or conditioning. The shadow may contain anger we were told was inappropriate, creativity we were told wasn't practical, or desires we were told were wrong. Over time, these parts of our psyche get pushed into the unconscious mind. But just because we hide them doesn't mean they disappear. In fact, they begin to subtly influence our decisions, our relationships, and even our identity. When we refuse to acknowledge our shadow, it doesn't vanish, it festers. It grows stronger, more disruptive, more uncontrollable. We begin to project it onto others, blaming them for the very qualities we can't face in ourselves. We criticize others for being selfish, not realizing it's our own unmet needs crying out. We resent someone's confidence, not recognizing it's our own suppressed self-worth aching to be seen. By refusing to embrace our shadow, we lose control over it, and in doing so, we lose control over ourselves. Embracing the shadow is not about glorifying darkness. It's not about becoming reckless or immoral. It's about radical self-acceptance. It's about turning toward the parts of us we fear and saying, I see you, I understand why you're here. When we begin to do this inner work, something powerful happens. We reclaim energy that has been locked away. Energy that was once used to suppress, deny, and hide becomes available for creativity, passion, and growth. We begin to live more fully, more honestly, more freely. Power does not come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from owning who we truly are, light and shadow, strength and weakness, wisdom and vulnerability. Carl Jung taught that the process of individuation, becoming the person you were meant to be, requires you to integrate all aspects of yourself, not just the ones that are socially acceptable. True authenticity means acknowledging the parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden and learning to work with them rather than against them. Think about a person you admire not because they're flawless, but because they're real. They don't hide their struggles. They don't wear a mask to impress. They own their pain, their past, and their imperfections. That kind of person carries a quiet power or presence that commands respect, not through dominance, but through integrity. That's the power that comes from shadow work. It's the power of knowing who you are and no longer needing to prove anything to anyone. When we avoid the shadow, we remain fragmented. But when we embrace it, we become whole. Wholeness does not mean we are always happy or always right. It means we are integrated. It means we stop rejecting parts of ourselves and start understanding them. The angry voice inside us may be the voice that once protected us when no one else would. The fear may be the remnant of past trauma trying to keep us safe. The jealousy, the envy, the bitterness, these are signals from our unconscious pointing us to where healing is needed most. As we embrace the shadow, we begin to dissolve the illusion of separation within ourselves. We stop fighting who we are and start listening to what our emotions and instincts are trying to tell us. We become less reactive and more reflective. Instead of projecting blame outward, we look inward and ask, what part of me have I neglected? What part of me is trying to speak? In that honest dialogue with ourselves, we discover a depth of wisdom that no book, teacher, or guru can give us. It's the wisdom that comes from knowing ourselves fully. To embrace the shadow is to embrace our humanity. It is to accept that being human means being complex, contradictory, and at times messy. But within that, mess is meaning. Within that complexity is clarity. When we stop fearing the shadow, we stop fearing ourselves. And when we stop fearing ourselves, we unlock a confidence that doesn't need to shout to be heard. We become grounded, resilient, and unshakable, not because we're invincible, but because we're integrated. Healing begins when you stop hiding from yourself. This simple yet profound truth is at the core of shadow work and self-discovery. As human beings, we are masters of disguising not just in the roles we play for the world, but in the way we conceal our deepest wounds even from ourselves. We wear smiles over sadness, achievement over insecurity, and kindness over resentment. On the surface, everything looks fine. But beneath it all, there's often a quiet ache, a sense that something is missing, unresolved, or broken. And no amount of external success or validation can fill that void, because the pain isn't outside, it's inside. Carl Jung understood this paradox deeply. He recognized that the unconscious mind contains all the parts of us that we have rejected or deemed unacceptable. These parts don't vanish simply because we push them into the background. They become the inner saboteurs, the silent voices that whisper, "You're not good enough," "You're too much," or "You'll never change." They shape our habits, our triggers, our fears. And they grow louder the longer they go unacknowledged. The real danger isn't in having wounds, it's in pretending we don't. We live in a culture that rewards performance and punishes vulnerability. From a young age, many of us are taught to be strong, to be positive, to keep going no matter what. While resilience is admirable, it can become a mask when we use it to hide our pain instead of confronting it. When we deny our suffering, we also deny ourselves the chance to heal. Healing can't happen in hiding. It begins the moment we turn inward with honesty and say, "This hurts, I'm not okay," or "There's something I need to face." Shadow work requires that kind of honesty. It's not glamorous or easy. It doesn't offer quick fixes or instant peace. But what it does offer is real transformation. By facing what we've buried, old traumas, repressed emotions, patterns of self-sabotage, we begin to understand ourselves on a level that's impossible to reach through surface-level thinking. We begin to uncover the original wounds that caused us to hide parts of ourselves in the first place. And once we become aware of them, we can begin to unravel them layer by layer. One of the most liberating truths we can embrace is that there is nothing within us that cannot be acknowledged, explored, and healed. Our anger may be telling us about boundaries that were violated. Our shame may point to experiences where we were made to feel unworthy. Our sadness might trace back to loss that was never grieved. These emotions are not problems, they are messengers. And healing begins when we stop judging them and start listening. Many people resist this work because they fear what they might find. They worry that looking too closely at their shadow will reveal something monstrous, something unlovable. But in reality, what we find in the darkness is often not a monster, but a wounded child longing for love, safety, and understanding. When we can meet that child with compassion instead of condemnation, we initiate healing in its truest form. We rewrite the inner story that has kept us stuck, and we begin to reclaim the parts of ourselves that were lost in the process. Healing is not linear. It is not a straight path from pain to peace. It is more like a spiral, returning, a deepening, a revisiting of wounds with greater awareness each time. But every step, no matter how small, matters. Every time we choose to feel instead of numb, to be curious instead of critical, to speak instead of stay silent, we move closer to wholeness. And each moment of courage adds up. We build emotional muscles we never knew we had. We begin to experience freedom not because the past is erased, but because we are no longer running from it. When we stop hiding from ourselves, we create space for true connection with others and with life itself. People often think healing is a solitary journey. While it does require solitude, its fruits are most evident in how we show up in the world. We become less reactive and more responsive. We stop demanding perfection from others because we've stopped demanding it from ourselves. We cultivate empathy not because we read about it in a book, but because we've sat with our own suffering long enough to recognize it in someone else's eyes. The most beautiful part of this journey is not becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the world told you to hide. It's peeling away the layers of fear and defense to reveal the truth that was there all along. You are already worthy, already whole, already enough. Shadow work isn't about fixing what's broken, it's about loving what's been hidden. And that is where true healing begins.